What's up, fabulous people? I hope you're doing wonderful right now. It's so good to be back on here. Actually, today's conversation is actually going to be a little bit different than some of the things I normally do, but I think it's imperative that we have this conversation. I'm going to be talking about a guy named Landon Eastep, I think that's how you say his name, who was actually killed by the police. In this situation, he was actually a white man. He was killed by the police, wasn't actually a black man that was actually killed by the police. But nevertheless, it still ties into the conversation we've been trying to have about policing in America. And so I think it's imperative that we have the conversation about this one right now, because this one's really disturbing. I'm going to try not to play the parts that I think are extremely graphic. So just in case this kind of thing bothers you, just want to let you know beforehand before I play the clip. So I'm going to play the clip right now, and then I'm going to talk about it. Here it is. Okay, so here you actually see there are so many police officers. And this is why this is so disturbing, what I'm going to play right now. There is one guy. Here he is, right here. One guy. And look at all the police officers. It took that many police officers for one guy who's standing on the freeway. He doesn't seem like this is a hostage situation. Doesn't seem like he's robbing anyone. Doesn't seem like he's threatening to kill anyone. Doesn't seem like he's killed anyone. Doesn't seem like he's even committed any crime. It looks like he's having a mental health issue. And look at all the police officers that are there for one guy. All the resources out there for one guy who's clearly having a mental health issues, and a guy who is non-threatening at the moment. Look at how many police officers are there.
The state trooper is ready to shoot.
Even the people recording the video were like, look at the police officers ready to shoot. Everybody sees these certain patterns that you start to see from police officers, and you recognize that this is probably going to end up being a very precarious situation. And of course, it ends up being a precarious situation. It ends up being a horrendous situation. But here it is. And they keep saying that there were only 9 police officers. I'm counting like right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like there's 10 in the back, but we'll see. Here comes another one.
Oh, another guy out of the police even in the back.
Oh, and there's another one.
3, my God.
And another one.
Oh my God.
All right, I'm going to stop it right here because I honestly don't believe that it's imperative that I show this part of it, because it is so disturbing. They shot this guy probably over like 20 times. It's too graphic, and honestly, I just don't feel like it's appropriate to share it any further. So I'm going to stop sharing it right now. But yeah, they shot the guy like 20 times, and honestly, the last 2 shots were actually so unnecessary. They had already shot him like 18 to 20 times, and then all of a sudden, a couple seconds later, you hear a couple more shots. It was literally so unnecessary. When you talk about excessive force, this is a prime example of excessive force. This is one of the most disturbing police shootings I've actually seen in a very long time, because it was not only excessive, but there were way too many police officers there for a man who was clearly having a mental health breakdown when there should have actually been mental health professionals there, not a whole bunch of police officers there for a guy that at that moment doesn't even look like he was committing a crime. What were they doing there? Why did you need that many police officers legitimately for a guy that's walking on a freeway? So basically, for me, my question here is, Republicans, do you feel that this particular situation, is this the kind of situation that you feel like we should have a conversation about? Is this enough for you to say now, okay, we need to have a conversation about policing in America? Because if this is not enough of a situation for you to say that, then like, I need to understand, when do you feel like it's appropriate to have this conversation? Like, I'm not expecting you to care when it's a Black person that's killed by the police. I never anticipate that you will care. But I'm wondering now, do you care? Now, I have never been a proponent for disbanding or defunding the police or any of that. I'm not a proponent for any of that. I've never supported that concept. So don't come in there and be like, oh, it's a woke culture. It's just a woke culture over here saying stuff about the police. I mean, this is just the woke. I've never been a proponent for it. I don't agree with it. I don't believe in terminating the police. I believe in reforming the police. And I think the situation is a prime example of why you need to reform the police. And I feel like if I use this particular situation, then maybe some of you might understand that there's a problem with policing in America. Recognizing that this guy is never coming back for eternity. So I ask, when is it okay to finally have this conversation about reforming police? If this situation doesn't concern you, we're 9, they say, at least 9 different police officers are there for one guy that was clearly having a mental health crisis, then when do you care? Like when? When do you care about it? And the reason why I don't support defunding the police is because I recognize that there's so many different situations in which the police will be necessary. For example, someone could be robbing somebody, or someone could be stealing something, or somebody could be trying to do the R word to somebody, or somebody could be trying to, hold someone hostage. There are numerous situations that happen in America every single day, and the average citizen is not going to go and take care of those situations. So I've never been a proponent of defunding the police. I've always been a proponent of reforming the police. So before I get any further, here is this report from the news, and I feel like I need to show this to you guys because I think it plays into kind of what I'm discussing here with the problems, generally speaking, with the way not only reforming the police, but also reforming the way the police are actually dealt with and the way they're portrayed, especially by the American media. So let me play this clip because it was actually pretty annoying to me. So let me share it with you, and then I'll talk about it.
Tonight, we are becoming better acquainted with the man killed. News Force Rebecca Cardenas dug through his criminal history and sat down with his ex-girlfriend. Landon Eastep's ex-girlfriend tells me this was a man who was struggling and crying out for help. His criminal history tells a similar story.
Look at what she does here. Okay, first of all, let me just say something. Look at what she does here. She holds up the actual papers of his criminal history, and I don't even think that this guy had actually been dead an entire day by the time that they dug up his criminal past. And if you look at the actual title of this video, it's Court Documents Reveal Landon Eastep's Troubled Past. They're immediately trying to excuse the behavior of the police officers, but let me continue.
And one of a violent past. Candace Rittenberry knew the man at the center of Thursday's police standoff as soon as she saw him on the news.
All of a sudden, I started looking closer. I seen his shoes, his pants, the way he looked, the way he dressed, his hat. He always wore that hat. And then we seen him getting shot.
Rittenberry says she and Landon Eastep, who ultimately was killed by police, dated 2 years ago.
I first met him in the NA rooms.
Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know what NA rooms, that's Narcotics Anonymous. So what she's basically saying here is that he had a drug addiction, which I don't even understand why any of this would have been relevant in the first place, because I don't think that has anything to do with whether or not at the situation at bar was justified. But nevertheless, for some reason, the news media, the American news media, felt it was appropriate. So let me continue.
Recovery.
She knew Eastep to battle addiction and mental illness, something we found consistent with his criminal background check, which reveals more than a dozen drug or alcohol-related charges dating back to 2005.
It sucks. And
then they want to remind you that he had alcohol and drug abuse charges dating back so many years, just so you can understand the psychology of the person that we're dealing with, so that we can dehumanize him, so that you won't find any value in his life, and maybe you'll excuse the police's conduct in this situation. But let me continue.
The only thing that any of his friends or anybody ever wanted was to see Landon do good, and for it to end this way, it's heartbreaking. It really is. I just wish this all could have ended a different way, because people with mental illness, especially ones that don't have insurance or anything like that, we can't get the help that we need.
That is such an important point. And let me be clear on this. If any Republicans ever care about this, because I know that this is actually a foreign concept to you, caring and compassion and all that stuff. But nevertheless, I digress. The thing about it is that this is a very important point. A lot of times these people have mental health issues, right? They're suffering from a host of different things, and they don't actually have the resources to be able to get the help and the care that they need. So what ends up happening is that they're wandering on a freeway, probably having a mental health crisis because they weren't able to get the care and then the treatment and things like that that they needed in order to be able to deal with whatever situation that they were going through. That is part of the problem that you guys do not understand. And now somebody is dead as a consequence of you not willing to understand this. But let me continue.
And this is what ends up happening.
News 4 did uncover a rocky relationship between Eastep and his wife. She filed 2 orders of protection against Eastep in the last 6 months, the most recent on November 17th, 2021. In it, she describes Landon kicking in the door, throwing a small shelf at her, punching a hole in the wall, and threatening to kill her. She goes on to say Eastep had a history of abusing her, including strangling her multiple times and threatening to kill her with a knife. According to his criminal background check, Eastep was charged with domestic assault resulting in bodily injury.
I want to stop it right there because I wanted to make sure I showed that part of it as well, because I don't want to actually excuse the conduct against his wife. I don't want to pretend like that didn't transpire as well. So I felt it was imperative for the entire story to be able to put that part in there. But I want you to understand how my mind is actually wired. I'm actually an attorney, so I'm wired differently. So if you're going to ask me from a personal perspective, do I think that this guy actually did those things that they're accusing him of? Yeah, I do. Now, if you're going to ask me from a legal perspective, do I think he did those things? I'm going to tell you, I don't have enough information to determine whether or not he did or did not. They're mere accusations. He was never convicted. And let me be clear about convictions. Just because someone was convicted of something doesn't mean they necessarily did it. People have been exonerated many times. And just because someone was not convicted doesn't mean they didn't do it. It just means that they weren't able to find them guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the requirement and the standard and the bar when you're trying to charge someone criminally and convict them criminally. That's the standard that you have to be able to meet. That's the burden you have to be able to meet in a criminal case. So when people walk around saying, oh, he was found innocent, he was innocent. Like, look, no one's ever found innocent, ever. I hate hearing that. It drives me crazy. So I just had to bring that up because it's literally one of the most annoying things I ever hear. So, but nevertheless, let's just say for the sake of argument that yes, he did do all those things. That has absolutely zero to do with the situation at bar. Even if you think he is a horrendous human being, that has nothing to do with what happened here. It has absolutely zero to do with what happened here. That's a entirely different situation. And the reason why we have a criminal justice system is so that people can actually have an opportunity to either defend themselves, and the people who have actually been victims of it have an opportunity to be protected. And then you put forth evidence in front of a jury decides whether or not, or the trier of fact, it could be a judge, if you decide for a bench trial, that they decide whether or not you committed this crime beyond a reasonable doubt. And then from there, you go from there. We don't just adjudicate people in the court of public opinion. And I don't even agree with that, because if we did, then so many people would be in jail right now for things that they probably never even did. We need the criminal justice system to work. And if you believe in the criminal justice system, then in terms of like, you want to make sure that people can actually go through a system and be tried before people are just going and saying, okay, I think you did it, and then you're going to prison. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a system like that and people are just going ahead and just decided for themselves, then obviously a lot of people, like I said, will be in jail. And here's the problem with what I had with that video, is that a lot of these reporters and so-called journalists in the United States of America, they don't really care about justice. They don't really care about truth. At the end of the day, they're sitting there trying to protect the police officers and justify what happened here by using its criminal past as if it negates what happened here. That was the whole purpose of it, coddling and protecting the police officers, as opposed to looking for actual justice. And that's why people don't even respect journalism in America. Don't even know if journalism in America still exists. That's why you had people like Maggie Haberman, who was literally writing articles trying to protect the flagrant foul when he was in the office. Her articles were so bland because she was so scared of losing access, because they're all scared of losing access. That's why the articles you would see from Maggie Haberman, they were like, oh my God, you will not believe it. Today the president was sitting there in the Oval Office and he had a little cup of tea. It was small, but it was a tiny cup. And people are really wondering, why not have a bigger cup of tea? Like a small cup? Like that was the kind of stuff that Maggie Haberman was writing. She's like, honestly, today people were really concerned because like he had like a cheese dip And it wasn't actually gourmet. And I'm just like confused. And that is what they're talking about right now in the West Wing. People are trying to figure out whether that cheese dip was gourmet or not. I'm telling you guys, I'll get back to you soon. The story is coming at 10. I mean, it was such a joke. Like, she never wanted to write any real articles about the flagrant foul. It was always this nonsense stuff that was so irrelevant. And, you know, the part of the problem is that's the part of the problem that we have with journalism in America. Like, this is the kind of stuff that they're doing all the time. And, you know, the one thing I actually do recognize is that a lot of these journalists and a lot of these people, it's not even just about journalism. It's about the lack of compassion, a lack of care or concern for human life in the United States of America. And I recognize, too, another thing. Look, the only thing in life that's guaranteed is that your life is going to end. When you are born, when you come into this world, the only thing that's guaranteed in your life is that your life is going to end at some particular time. So there's no other guarantee that you have in life except for the fact that you are guaranteed that the only thing you will have is death. And that sounds morbid, I know, but this is what I'm trying to say. Throughout your life, it's basically just a journey, a nice long journey, and hopefully you find your happiness throughout the way. And along the way, you're finding your happiness. But one thing that should be assured to you while you're going through that journey, where you know that at the end, it's definitely going to be, you're going to meet your maker, whoever you believe in, that throughout that journey, that no human being has the right to come and take your life and end your journey early. No human being should have that much power to be able to come in and end your life early. No human being should have the right to determine when your journey is going to end. Your journey should end when it was supposed to end, naturally supposed to end, not when some human being decides that they're going to come in and steal your joy, steal your happiness, and then send you to your maker. That should never happen. All human life should be protected. All human life should be protected. And so therefore, nobody has the right at any point to come in there and take your life away from you. And no one has a right to infringe upon your right to be able to live and enjoy your own happiness. That's something that we should all fundamentally believe. But unfortunately, too many of you do not believe that. No other industrialized nation, no other civilized nation kills their citizens the way the United States of America does. If this was the UK, not one person probably would have been injured. Maybe there would have been a scratch on their face, but no one probably would have been harmed. And the guy was clearly having a mental health crisis. There's no doubt about it that the person was having a mental health crisis. And they did not need that many police officers to de-escalate a situation where a guy was by himself. Instead, you should have had a whole bunch of mental health professionals on there, maybe a couple cops just in case it got out of hand. But why did you need that many cops? Why? Why did you need that many police officers? What you needed was mental health counselors. You did not provide this guy with mental health services at that time. You needed mental health professionals at that time. You did not do that. Instead, you brought as many police officers as you can, as if you were in the biggest crisis in the history of the world. But more importantly, I just need to make sure that I'm getting to the things that I actually really want to talk about here too. I mean, those things were important too, but I'm just saying I need to get to the point of what I'm trying to say here. I want to know, Republicans, how do you feel about this situation? Is this okay to you? Honestly, this is actually rhetorical because I already know how you feel about it because I saw some of your tweets. And you know, I don't actually have a Twitter account. I mean, I do. It's suspended, but I can still see the things that you guys post. So I'm going to show you some of the things that Republicans are posting right now because I can tell you right now, they're still being just Republicans. But here it is. Let me show you a few things. All right, so here's one of the guys. Typical Republican. You got to love them, man. I'm telling you, these guys are so smart. But obviously, he's responding to Ben Crump, and Ben Crump is obviously not a Republican. So the response here is pretty predictable. But anyway, yes, absolutely necessary. If someone is threatening anyone with a box cutter like they used to hijack Flight 93 of 9/11, I want them shot multiple times. Okay, let me just explain something to you because he's being extremely hyperbolic. This is not analogous, Brian. What happened on that plane was a tragedy because those people on that plane were unassuming. They had no idea that the people that were on that plane were actually going to kill them. So nobody there had any weapons. They definitely didn't have multiple people with guns. This is not the same situation, buddy. Okay, so there was no one there to protect them. So yes, a box cutter in that situation was a very dangerous situation. Here is different. There were multiple police officers that if at any point the situation did become dangerous, then they could have taken action. Sorry for you, Brian, but you're a Republican. I mean, I know it's hard. It's really hard. Here's some more, though. I'm going to show you some more because, honestly, they love just being Republicans. They love being exactly who they are. So I'm going to show you exactly who you are. Like they say, if someone shows you who they are, believe them. So let me show you some more of what they're saying. Okay, here's another one. Did they know it was a box cutter? No. All of a sudden, he makes a sharp movement with something in his hand that could be a gun. You know, maybe don't have a standoff with police in the middle of the interstate. But of course, all you liberals blame the cops first. See, here's the thing. That's the thing about Republicans. You know why they won't care about this situation? It's because it was liberals actually care about it. Because everything is about fighting the liberals. Nothing is about getting anything accomplished. Nothing is about standing firm in your morals or having any kind of moral compass or being consistent. None of that stuff really matters. At the end of the day, what's more important is that you're fighting the libtards, the libtards. That's what's more important to you, to be able to fight the liberals instead of actually looking at the situation from a critical perspective. What made you automatically respond to it and then disagree with it is because you thought it was a liberal. Republicans, you guys are amazing. You never change. Let me show you another one because, you know, Republicans, they love being consistent. I swear to you, they love being consistent. Here's another one. Shameful race baiting nonsense. Oh, you're really smart there, Caesar. Great, really, like, wow, you're really intelligent. Because you know what's so funny about the situation is that the guy that they killed was white, and the cops that killed him were also white. So where's the race baiting in this situation here? I mean, see, Caesar's so used to actually using that every time a police officer kills someone, so he's so used to regurgitating that he probably didn't even take the time to even look at the video because they don't even care at looking at the evidence anymore. It doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, it's a liberal saying it, and this liberal has to be race baiting because he's a black guy. He's got to be race baiting because it was police officer that killed someone. He just assumed the guy was probably black, and then automatically he responded, probably not even watching the video. But do you expect more from Republicans or people who support the Trumpianism? Do you expect any more from them? Because automatically they're just going to presume that you had to be race baiting. They're so smart. God, how did they get this intelligence? I'm telling you, it's shocking. And let me show you another one because I think it's important that I show some more. Just one more. Actually, I don't want to show too many because they're all writing some complete and total nonsense. It's all crap. But here it is. Here's the last one. What a dumb F. Suicide by cop works every time. Bye-bye. I'm going to leave this guy alone because, like, obviously you're gone and I don't want you to find out who I am and then something actually ends up happening to me. So I'm going to leave you alone, buddy. Take it easy. Take care, okay? Because I want to survive. So I'll move on from you, but, like, clearly everything's not going well over there with you. But this is the problem I have from them. Like, are you so detached from humanity that you don't even still want to have a conversation about whether or not we need police reform? Or are you outraged by this and now feel the situation was not justified? And if you do not feel it was justified, what do you feel like we should do about it? But I already know a little bit, I kind of sense where you guys are going to go with this with all the responses because it's very clear to you guys that you really don't care about human life. So nevertheless, I mean, I probably, a lot of this is probably rhetorical because I think I already had the answer. But nevertheless, I think it's important to still say it. Here's the thing about you guys. You're too busy fighting things like whether or not they're going to teach critical race theory in school, or the woke culture, or transgender people having the right to exist, or maybe turning the frogs gay. I mean, that was one at one point, wasn't it? So many nonsensical things, but where are you when it comes to human life? I'm so confused because, like, I really don't hear you guys fighting about things like preserving life and stuff like that. But anyway, your entire party now has become nothing but a party fighting cultural issues and creating controversies in order to justify why you spent an entire day doing absolutely nothing with being on social media, waiting for clicks and likes and retweets, while real life issues are actually happening, things that affect actual people. Normal, well-adjusted, regular people are actually out there doing real things, but you guys, for some reason, aren't like average, normal, well-adjusted people. Instead, you were focusing on things that are so irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Do you say you believe in the Constitution? Because it's so interesting to me. Because I hear you guys say that all the time. We believe in the Constitution. We fight in the Constitution. If you believe in the Constitution, then you believe that everyone is entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that is actually in the Constitution of the United States. How do you interpret that as a Republican? I'm just wondering, like, do you believe in that too now when we talk about the Constitution? Does that matter to you too? Because honestly, if you did really care about that, the Constitution, then you would believe in that. And number one, you would actually read the Constitution, which would be a good thing for you guys to do. And number two, A life was lost unnecessarily and has been happening consistently, and Black people are disproportionately killed by the police. And you guys constantly come up with excuses for why it was justified. And you're trying to come up with excuses now why it was justified because it's the libs. You discuss the person's criminal history, or that they were bad people before, or that they didn't comply, or they were in the wrong neighborhood, or they're in a gang, or whatever it is that you need to justify this. So why do we even have a criminal justice system? Why do we have one? Why do we even need a judicial system? Because for you guys, people that even have $20 counterfeit bills also deserve execution. Am I right or wrong? Because some of you were even making jokes when it came to George Floyd's death, but I digress. So why do we even have a judicial branch in this country? Why do we need one? Which stems from Article 3 of the United States Constitution, by the way, which I know many of you don't even know that, even though you talk about the Constitution all the time. So I'm just wondering, Republicans, what do you actually stand for? Actually, what do you believe in at all? Do you believe in anything real? Because honestly, a lot of you with your political theatrics on YouTube and Twitter and on Fox News and Instagram and all the social media platforms, your political theatrics are unconvincing anymore, especially to me, because you have no fundamental ideological core. All you care about is talking about things that are not helping the United States. And while fellow citizens are being killed by the state, you are concerned about whether or not they are going to teach critical race theory in schools? You're making up things like they're stealing our guns. They're going to chew our guns if they come to our house. Put your gun away. They're chewing away our guns. That guy looks so hungry. I think he's going to chew my gun. They're going to take away your Second Amendment. United States could not even take away all the guns. There are more guns on the street than there are people in the United States. It's far past time where the United States could even take away everyone's guns. Stop with that lie. You talk about things like, oh yeah, you know what they're going to do? They're going to turn all your kids transgender. Every kid's going to be transgender. There is no concerted effort to do that. There is not one. But you love to spread that lie. And you'll say it. You know why you say it? Because you know that you're going to get clicks and likes and all of those retweets, and that's all you care about. We all know that because you don't do anything real. And another thing too, let me tell you something. Do not talk about welfare anymore because you guys are the biggest welfare recipients anyone has ever known. You do absolutely nothing all day. You don't accomplish anything all day, but you get a check every single month and perfect healthcare and all these other benefits for doing absolutely nothing. So please do not talk about struggling single moms that are out there getting welfare and you're out there getting checks and out there getting health benefits when you get those all the time and you get far more money for doing absolutely nothing. And part of what you do is you dummy down your population of people so much to the point where things like life and death, they don't even care about. So please do not talk about welfare because all you do is ruin the country for free, right? I mean, it costs you nothing. You just get paid to do it. So anyway, I played this video because I wanted to talk about this because I think that it is an important thing that we have a conversation about this because Republicans at any point, I just want to know if you're going to step up to the plate and show that you even have the slightest ounce of humanity left in you and whether or not you actually care about human life. I just wonder, I'm curious about it. It is a real question. Do you actually care about human life or is that even questionable to you now as well? All the kind of things you guys are worrying yourself about, they don't actually matter in the grand scheme of things, but you continue to spend your time worrying about those kind of things and trying to rally up your base to get to the point to care about things that don't even matter in their own lives. And when something like this actually happens, they're so distracted by the fact of whether or not it's a Republican or a Democrat that supports it, it's a liberal, progressive, it's conservative or liberal. They're so concerned about those kind of things to determine whether or not they're actually going to support something, whether it was right or it was wrong. They don't even know right or wrong anymore because you have brainwashed them so much where every single determination they make, they have to determine first whether or not liberals support it or not. And when it comes down to fundamental things like life, you guys are questioning whether or not you should support this particular issue, especially when you see the situation where the guy is standing there, clearly having a mental health crisis, and all these police officers are standing around him. It was not necessary whatsoever, but all these police officers standing around him. This guy's having a mental health crisis. It took that many police officers, and then they shot and killed him so many times, so unnecessarily, and you're going to sit there and debate whether or not that was appropriate or not? At no point do you want to have that conversation. And it's not just, I've realized through this situation by your comments that the fight to you that's more important is the fight between whether the person's a liberal or a Republican. Because if Trump came and said that this situation was so terrible, we need to investigate, all of you would have been like, this is absolutely terrible. This is terrible. It's horrible. The same people who are tweeting out there, race beta, you waste beta, they'd be out there be like, oh my God, this is so terrible. Trump just said it was terrible, so it must be terrible. It's getting pathetic at this point. And honestly, you guys don't even recognize you're actually destroying the United States of America. When it comes to the point where you don't even care whether or not someone dies, when you know the situation is so glaringly apparent that it is egregious and you don't even care because you know that it's a fight between liberals and Republicans, you've lost the plot and you've completely lost yourself. So anyway, that does it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this broadcast. I'm doing these things a little bit differently right now because I realize that it's so much harder to make these videos sometimes. And I think that's what deters me from actually making them sometimes, because I just don't have the time to actually do it. If I can just sit here and have a conversation about it and show some things and then edit it that way, it's so much easier and it takes less time. So I decided to start trying to do it this way because I still want to be making content. And this situation bothered me so much that I felt like I needed to say something about it because it's a tragic situation all the way around. There's nothing about it that anybody can even justify, and I definitely couldn't justify it myself, and I don't want to justify something like this. It's so tragic. So anyway, guys, until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. Take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.